Hi everyone, hope you are having a wonderful day. I'm here at the Bio Creation Conference 2016 at Cape Town. Today is the last day of the conference, and here I have one of our participants with us. So tell us about yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Lulamba. I'm from the SANBI, South African National Bioinformatics Institute, and I'm currently actively involved into developing standards for pathogen genomic data.
Okay, that's really good to hear. For those of the listeners who's not familiar with what it is that you do, are you sort of in the laboratory side? Are you doing pure bioinformatician? Are you doing downstream analysis? Just tell us about a bit about your daily activities and what it is that you are responsible for.
Yeah, that's a difficult question for me because I'm doing a bit of
Everything.
everything.
Okay.
So basically, I'm working on the data that will be generated during
Yes.
all those processes,
Okay.
starting on sample collection,
Right.
and then all the laboratories, all the output, and how we are going to standardize them to actually make them useful for
So you
patients.
start by collecting samples. Are these clinical samples? Are these viruses, bacteria? What type of pathogen?
Currently, we're working on the malaria,
Malaria. Okay.
standardizing the malaria data.
Okay. So you get these samples from patients, from hospital.
So malaria samples. So we're collecting, making standard
Okay.
for patient like human clinical
Yes.
data,
Yes.
also for One Health. So all the connection between environment,
Okay.
animals, vector, the mosquito vector, and the human sample. So yeah.
Okay. So once you get the samples, you bring it to the lab. You do the DNA extraction. You do the cleaning. And then you run it in what machine are you using? Illumina, ONT?
Um, yeah, I'm not collecting the sample.
Okay.
I'm only standardizing the process
Okay.
and kind of standardizing the data that need to be collected during all those processes so
Okay.
that the sequence, we know that sequence without metadata are useful. So we need to understand where is the sequence coming from, if the person was infected or not, where it's coming from, and all the process. So those are the information that we're collecting so that when we have our sequence data, we can actually see the context and compare and make sense of it. So
I
that's
see.
what we do.
So you trying to gauge on the external factors around the patient or the environment and
Yes.
basically correlating that with your sequencing data to say this person might be in a household of five, so there's more
Yes. Kind of.
chances of spreading, these.
Yes. Yeah. So actually, it's collecting all information to be able to predict. So it's useful for genomic surveillance
Sure.
and epidemiological studies.
Okay.
So what we do, for malaria,
Yeah.
to be able to make action, we need data. Data
Yes.
that can help us to understand
Yes.
or to answer questions like who was contaminated, when it happened,
Tracing. Yeah.
and where, and what are the factors contributing.
Yeah.
So
Like the.
to actually, if we need answer to those questions so that we can take action. So what we're doing is standardizing all those information so that we can collect it and integrate them at in a database or
Yeah.
whatever, so that people can actually have a look at it.
Yes.
And yeah, agglomerating it will help us to understand better the
Okay.
epidemiology of the.
I think that's very interesting work, and I think we have now gauged to see a bit about you. So maybe let's rewind the clock and take us back. How did you start on your scientific journey? Did you always knew that you wanted to do this, or tell
So
us
that's
about
a great question. So I didn't know that I would be doing that. My background is in the biotech, and then
biotech?
when
Okay.
I finished my PhD, I
Mm-hmm.
was involved in a project to develop a platform for biosample and data specimen collection. So
Yeah,
that how I got into data standardization. I had to look at different data,
sure.
different all the data that are being generated during the life cycle.
Right.
So yeah, I kind of like it, and yeah, now I'm doing it.
I see. So you sort of come from a biological background,
Biological
and
background.
now you sort of transition to a more computational, more data driven aspect because it's more for downstream analysis where you determine what's affecting to get you, your end result. So if I were to, ask you, you have been in the field for some time now, right?
Yes.
And you have experienced some, I'm sure, challenges. There's infrastructure issues, there's culture issues, and we heard, during the conference, there's different standardized and data procedures one needs to follow. Share some of your challenges with us.
Um, Challenges developing the standard. So first of all, I'll just say what is the current status. You see, for malaria, people, especially in Africa, we're working in silos. So this institution is collecting the data, but not for global integration or not to
So
share
it's
with
not
the.
shared with.
So they collect it in a certain way to fit their needs. They don't really integrate or implement the integration practices in what they are doing. So our work is kind of found a way to combine all those to integrate all the data coming from different
Sources.
institutions or
Okay.
sources.
Okay.
So the big problem in Africa also, because of that, people are not familiar with the data standardization. So we
Okay.
had to embark them, asking them if they are willing to like participate.
Sure.
So we had discussion. So to actually get them involved in the process, so we can, yeah, kind of advocate for them to start collecting their data into a certain way to allow integration and yeah.
So right now, different institutions are collecting the same malaria data, but it's in a different format. It's in different contexts. It's in different column, rows, headings.
You'll be amazed to see how actually the data are structured.
So now,
So
when you get that data, you need to clean that up. And
we not really collecting the data. We want to create a framework
oh,
where
okay,
people start now
you.
collecting them properly and structure them in a certain way to allow integration.
So you
That
want to create essentially one template that's agreed upon and give that template to all the institutions. So when they
yes,
collect the data, it fits, and then you can harmonize the data all together.
exactly.
I see. Okay. So that's your biggest challenge. So for now, is there a lot of support? Do you have third party buy ins?
A lot of support because we've been collaborating with Africa CDC.
Okay.
We've been yeah, different institutions in Africa and all over the world. So
Okay.
yeah, it's now a collaboration between
Different networks and
different
state
networks.
members. And then you mentioned you have working with, these big organizations like the Africa CDC, the, we heard during the conference, this ABI, Africa Bioinformatics Institute. If there's one thing that you sort of require from these big institutions, whether it's more, infrastructure, whether it's more cloud computing space or RAM, or whether it's like, more training networks or conferences like this where you put together in the same room with other people, what it is that you think it's most crucial?
Yeah, so yeah, what is most crucial is like for this conference. So we've gathered, we see, we've learned what everybody else is doing. So we've understood that in order for us to join our effort or to integrate everything that we do, we need to sit down and agree on the way of doing the way we're doing things so that yeah, we can do it in a certain way to allow integration. Yeah, that's for me why this kind of conferences
Are useful in a sense you
useful.
get
Yeah,
different view on what each team member
different
was.
view and agree on how we should do what
Right.
we're doing every day. Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you think some of the main challenges are in, the African continent? You mentioned obviously people collecting data differently. There might be language barrier or culture barriers. What do you think those challenges are? How do we sort of overcome those elements?
There are some of the challenges that have been reported,
Okay.
especially I'm thinking of things related to data ownership.
Oh,
So
so who owns that data once you collected it?
when the data is generated, especially if you want to share it publicly in a
Yeah.
public domain, so you have to submit it to a certain database, especially of the continent. So there is no oversight on the onward use of those data. Sometimes people who have generated the data and they lose access to their own data or being
Oh,
spoiled.
okay.
So there are challenges related to that. That is preventing people putting barriers, so people don't are not really open to data sharing or to the integration practices. And another thing is with the malaria. So the burden is so high, and if we develop the standards, often the standards that do exist are coming from developed countries. So
Okay.
where the technical specification might not be practical in the African context,
Yeah.
and the number of information that need to be collected is often too high. Can you imagine you have over 100 fields to fill per sample per person, and the burden is too high. You have many people. It is
Yeah.
going to be most
Sure.
of that. So those are the things, and because of that, data has not been collected, or
Mm.
limited data have been
Sure.
collected with the purpose of integration of
Okay.
being shared globally. So yeah, so just to mention.
So, if I understand you correctly, the first problem is if I collect my data, I don't want to put it on an open access platform because I don't know what's going to happen to the data.
Yeah,
So, I'd rather store that data at my institution for my own private use.
yeah.
So, everybody's doing that. So, you don't know actually what's out there, how much sample is available.
So and there are more reasons to
Sure.
that. Yeah, maybe the concept,
Okay. From patients,
of
ethical issues.
ethical issues,
Right.
or the privacy of the data.
Understand.
Genomic data, associated metadata could
Yeah.
be also a problem. Also, there's no mechanism for things like cost recovery,
Cost of recovery. Okay.
cost recovery or benefit sharing. So there's no anything
Oh, that will benefit the
who benefit
patient.
the
So
patient or
once the okay,
the person who's generating those data. So in Africa we do not
right.
have that.
So
So
if
it's
I
kind of
collect a sample from a patient, I'm not paying that patient. It's basically a volunteer from their side.
yeah, it could be that, but not only that. There are so many things that could be involved. Can you
Okay.
imagine it's a research institution like a university generating data or whatever? So what if we want to share the data and in
For the
return
publications and things.
public, not only that, so we share the data to a certain industry or company, and in return, if we can get some of the students being trained or
Okay.
exposed to some new technology or things
Yeah,
like that,
internships,
so there's no, it's not only money but some kind of
opportunity.
opportunities,
I
even for
understand.
student, even for, yeah, so there's no such talk, it's not
Yeah,
being,
had.
yeah, yeah,
No, I
to
understand that.
actually encourage people to start sharing what they
Yeah.
have collected.
So a fair way would actually be to give some people incentive to actually
Yes.
share their right. Then the other problem you mentioned is we actually don't have enough human resources to collect data, but also to collect relevant and important data. Because as you mentioned, when the standards are set in the global north, they have equipment, they have labs, they have skilled clinicians can spend time on a patient. Whereas here, if you're in a rural village, there might be only one clinician for 50 patients, and there's no way that one person can spend an hour with each patient to collect enough data. So the most likely case is you can only collect 3 or 4 pieces of information from every patient, and you have to make sure that those information are the most relevant.
Yes.
I see. No, I think that's you have painted a really good picture for us to sort of understand the burden the Africa continent have, with the aspect of malaria. So as we come to the end of this interview, I think I have two last questions for you. So the first question I would like to ask you is, we're in the fourth industrial revolution. There's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence, where I've heard in this conference.
Yes.
Are you using that in your work, or what is your opinion around that?
Um, my opinion would be it's a good thing. So
Mm-hmm.
if we can implement those like AI in what we're doing, I think it will make what we're doing easy and
Easier, okay.
fast.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, in my opinion is it's a good thing, but we need to like agree how we're going to use it and implement it. So that's still left to be
Right.
implemented.
So do you think, young scientists that's coming into the field, they should be AI literate, or what is your opinion? Do you think it's like an unstoppable train?
Um, Come again?
So, like, if someone's coming into university or they wanting to do postgrad in data science or
No.
bioinformatics, do you think they should know a little about AI? Do you think they should try use it, or do you think,
What I would say is being open to it
okay,
and always learn if there's something new that if there's a need, be open to learn and how to apply it. Yeah, so it doesn't matter if you are literate or if you've been initiated, but what is important, I think that's my opinion, is to be open to learn and to implement it.
I
Because there
see.
are so many things that we do and so many details, and AI can actually, yeah,
Help
yeah,
you?
help a lot with
Okay.
doing that.
So essentially, there are going to be new tools developed, and you should try to keep up with the current
Yes.
technology. Okay. No, I think that's a really good piece of advice. Then I think the last thing I would really want to ask you is, you have worked, with many scientists, shoulder to shoulder with other scientists around the continent. What advice would you give, someone who's coming out of high school that want to go into science? Personal advice, whether it's they need to better themselves in, communication, or to have more soft skills, or is it trying to, get down and learn coding so they know how to run Nextflow or other command lines? What would your personal advice be?
For myself, is first of all being self-motivated. Because with
Okay.
motivation, you be open to learn.
Right.
Always be curious because science is about knowledge,
Yes.
learning, and yeah, solving
Problems.
problems and
Yeah.
things like that. So you should be curious
Right.
and willing to
Okay. Any other piece of advice? Hard work, or never give up?
never give up, and
Okay.
all of those other
Elements.
elements will just add to your motivation, help you to actually get to your goals or yeah, everything that you've set yourself to do.
So essentially, try stay motivated so you can be curious about new tools, technologies like
Yes.
AI. And as you mentioned, try to work hard so that you can actually learn these new skill sets.
Yes.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Eddie. I
Thank
think we
you.
must acknowledge you for all the work that you've done. And yeah, it's great to have you at SANBI and
My
CMB.
pleasure.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you.